having trouble letting go of my Calvinist influence about the absolute sovereignty of God. So perhaps I can pose these following questions, starting off with the resurrection of Lazarus. Was that monergistic or synergistic?
Well, the fact that the bodily resurrection occurs by the direct power of Christ as a natural miracle or a miracle in the realm of nature, it does not follow from that there's no such thing as the human will or energy in the process of conversion.
Okay. Now, with Pharaoh, did God harden Pharaoh's heart, or did Pharaoh harden his own heart?
The text in Exodus say both, and so we see that as a version of synergy again.
Okay. With in a previous talk, you were bagging chaos theory because of the possibility of flux and all that, and it's self-refuting because if there's flux, nothing makes sense. So with the electrochemical reactions that occur in our brains and result in our thoughts, who controls them? Can they be random and chance?
Well, I wouldn't equate the mind or the soul to the brain. So the fact that we have electrical firings in our brain, it doesn't follow from that reductionism is the case.
Because I mean, with the occasionalist argument, how the brain and how they come together, because
well,
how do you?
But we're not occasionalists, so I mean, so what do you mean? So are you an occasionalist?
Because I found that argument persuasive because if the electrochemical reactions in our brains that result in our thoughts, I'm assuming they come from our brains, if they're chance and random, then our thoughts would be unintelligible. So that's a self-refuting argument. So that's an argument in favor for occasionally for God's absolute sovereignty. Otherwise, our thoughts could not be intelligible.
I don't see how the argument that... Are you saying that our thoughts are determined by chemical reactions in the brain and God is the direct cause of that? Is that what you're arguing?
Yeah, it's God has to be absolutely sovereign. There can't be any...
Well, you're using the phrase that... Hold on. You're using the phrase God has to be absolutely sovereign. I don't know what you mean by those words because it sounds to me like that's just code for your philosophical presuppositions about what God is and how he has constructed the world. So, I mean, let's rephrase it this way. Is it possible that God can create a world where there's secondary agents?
All right. There's a follow-up question that kind of answers that, if I can ask.
Okay.
Can God's decretive will be frustrated?
Well, I don't have the view that God is the direct cause of every event, so I don't understand decretive will in the same way as you.
I guess can God's as in, can things not go as planned because of these secondary causes not acting according to how God wills them to ultimately?
Again, you're just rephrasing your position in a different way. So let's rephrase. Hold on. Let's rephrase, because your whole argument here is based on dialectics. So let's rephrase this. Do you believe in the Trinity?
Yes.
Okay. So do you think that Trinitarian theology can be done apart from the Trinitarian theology that comes out of the ecumenical councils?
No, I guess not.
Okay. So if that's the case, then you can't hold to your position because your position is based on another type of Trinitarian theology than what comes out of the ecumenical councils. Because what you're talking about is like a Platonic determinism. Okay, that's not what the Cappadocians teach. And that's who formulated the church's Trinitarian teachings.
Okay, what about Scripture, Romans 8:28?
So again, before we go to Scripture, what I want to know is where are you getting your doctrine of the Trinity from? Because that's where we're going to get our doctrine of person and nature and will and energy. And if you don't have a doctrine of person, nature, will, and energy, there's no way to have a doctrine of the Trinity. So where are you getting your Trinitarian doctrine from?
from God's revelation in Scripture.
Okay, but who determined the canon of Scripture?
God through His absolute sovereignty.
No. So again, you think the direct cause of God is what determined the canon. Historically, who determined the canon of Scripture?
Well, the church.
Okay, what church? What church?
Will.
What church?
What do you mean?
The church. What church? Who makes up that church you're talking about?
The church, I guess, the Orthodox Church. I'm not.
Oh, okay. Well, so wait a minute. So if it's the Orthodox Church, then it's not the Calvinist Church. So they probably don't have the right Trinity, right? Because we don't have the view of the Trinity the Calvinists do. So your presuppositions are all wrong. Is my point.
But with the presuppositional argument, it reduces it's I guess there's a reductio ad absurdum here. The argument is true by virtue of the possibility of the contrary. It's impossible.
Yeah, but it doesn't work in a Calvinist view. Yeah, but as a Calvinist, you can't use that argument.
No. As a someone moving towards orthodoxy, but still having trouble reconciling this question of.
Okay, so the question that we're asking, as I said to Andrew, is resolved in the doctrine of Christology. So if you look at the way that your doctrine of divine decree and sovereignty would condition and destroy Christology, that's the lens, the window, the doorway out of this dilemma. Because Christology is impossible in your view of God.
Okay, so what is wrong about my understanding of Romans 8:28?
All right, so the debate becomes about sola scriptura, the presuppositions prior to you throwing a bunch of texts at me. I want to know about the origin of the canon. And no, let's bypass that. Let's go to Romans 8. And again, our theology, you don't just go to Romans 8. You don't just go to Romans 9, right? When Paul writes his epistle to the Ephesians and he says that you're the predestined, it's written to the visible church. It's not written to the secret elect.